Hello world, hello lovers. Welcome to the very first episode of the Love by Lynzie podcast. I'm your host, Lynzie Kent, and I am extremely excited to be finally launching this podcast. I hope that you are ready to chat all things weddings and events with me. I want you to know right out of the gate that this podcast is made for brides and grooms as much as it's made for event industry professionals. My goal with the Love by Lynzie podcast is to redefine what it means to be a couple or an event pro in the modern world. I want to shake things up. I want you to know that there are no rules when it comes to planning weddings and events. It's all about you, who you are, and the story that you want to tell with your event. I want to teach you how to plan and design the party of your dreams. I really want to empower you to rock your event business your way and leave you feeling really good about weddings and events and the business of weddings and events. Let's dive in. You are probably thinking, who is this woman? And what does she know about weddings and events and redefining the industry? And if you've been following along with me for a while, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. But if you're new here, I think I should probably introduce myself. My name is Lynzie. I am the owner of Love by Lynzie Events and Design. We are a creative agency that plans beautiful, bold events for wedding clients, brands, and companies as well. Our design voice is loud and colorful, and it's pretty out of the box. I'm also the founder of the Pop-Up Chapel Co., which is a shared wedding concept where we marry one couple on the hour, every hour for 10 hours straight. So we marry 10 couples in one day. And over the past 4 years, we've married 200 couples, and we've also raised over $45,000 for local charities. And we're growing. The Pop-Up Chapel Co. is now found in 5 cities across Canada. And hopefully, after this whole pandemic mess, more into North America. I've also hosted 2 internationally aired TV shows, Post My Party and Crazy Beautiful Weddings. And both shows featured my team and I creating gorgeous celebrations for clients. Lastly, yes, I'm crazy. I have like 7 jobs. I also sing lead for a live band called Electric Blonde, which over the past couple years I have been winding down a little bit. But singing is truly my first passion, and it is what got me into the events industry to begin with. I had this weird fleeting moment of YouTube fame as a singer in the early 2000s. And if you don't believe me, you can fully search it on YouTube after you watch this video. By the way, for those of you listening, I am filming this as well for YouTube, so there is a visual component to the podcast. But it's true. If you search on YouTube, you'll find me as a young buck in the early 2000s wearing some heavily emo-inspired clothing, singing covers, and that was like early Lynzie, the beginning of this whole thing. So just remember that the internet is forever and it's permanent. That's a hard lesson that I've learned. So how did I get here to this podcast today? To becoming an event industry expert and sought-after event designer. I'm going to give you the Coles Notes of my life story, which I think greatly informs my point of view on the event industry and how I run my business. I was born in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and parties have literally been my life before it was my profession, before I can remember. I was raised in a family of musicians. My parents had a live band, and they played at weddings and corporate events and resorts and clubs. So I was always around performers. I was always around events since I was a very small girl, and eventually I became a performer myself. I really liked being the center of attention. It felt great. But in order to be the center of attention, you needed an audience. And I really learned at an early age that a great way to create an audience was to throw a party. So I feel really bad for my mom, and I still apologize for this, but in high school, I threw so many parties when my parents were away on gigs. And Lord knows how many beer caps I hid from my mom and how many couches were set on fire in my driveway. That is a true story. But it was a rush to throw a party, right? To be responsible and loved for providing a good time to people. I spent years singing lead for party bands and on tour with 8 dudes in a van performing on stages across Canada. Basically, how it all began for me in events was when I was 15, I let my high school boyfriend borrow my dad's car. This was a really bad choice. But he basically drove it right into a snowbank. And I remember getting this call from him saying, first of all, he wasn't coming home. And I was like, where is he with the car? He told me he was late for work. He needed it for work and he wasn't coming home. So I remember getting this call from him saying, Lynzie, we have a problem. I got in an accident with your dad's car. Turns out he went out joyriding with his friend. He drove it into a snowbank. I went to where he was. I saw him. I gave him hell. But obviously, at the end of the day, it was my dad's car. This was my responsibility. And my dad said to me, your mom doesn't want to sing lead in the band anymore. She's tired of it. So you are going to sing lead in the band for an entire summer, and I'm not going to pay you. And that is how you're going to pay off the car. So when I was 16, I turned 16 that summer, I was thrust into this world of singing lead in this band at events, at weddings, at resorts. And this was my first chance to really be exposed to the event industry. And each moment was really an opportunity to learn what made a great party, right? I was on stage performing, but I was observing everything that was happening around me. And as the years went on, I really realized that I cared less about being the center of attention, and I wanted to create that center of attention for other people to step into. I found myself being drawn to timelines and tablescapes, right? And by the way, that was an alternative name for this podcast. We just didn't end up choosing it. And thus began planning weddings and events and helping clients craft moments that gave them the incredibly warm and full feeling of being loved by all the people that they love in one room at one moment. And that's a really special feeling. If you haven't felt that, you need to plan a good party. So creating parties really has truly shaped my life. It's given me boundless opportunities for creative expression. It's allowed me to purchase my first home, have babies and give them a wonderful life. It's also allowed me to take a real maternity leave. And it's allowed me to fall in love with my second passion, business. Looking back on where I've come from touring in bands to living off per diems and tips, literally, to dropping out of university twice, I really never thought I'd fall in love with business. If somebody told me that it would become something that I really love and live and breathe every day, if they told me that then, I would literally have laughed. But that's because I thought it fit into this super narrow scope, which meant school and graphs and charts and big words. But no, it's not like that. And I've learned that to me, business, it can mean intuition and vision, laughter and authenticity, failure and triumph, ideas, creativity, problem solving. And what I like the most, business can mean deep, deep connection. So here I am, many years later, a connoisseur of music and streamers and cocktails and decor, but also a lover of team engagement activities and profit and loss reports and team meetings. And I'm here to share with you how I built my business to the brink of 7 figures with no formal education, but with a whole lot of heart and drive. I'll be introducing you to some of the people that I find to be super inspirational and game-changing in the industry. And by the way, that is a secret, selfish reason that I started this podcast, because I want to learn too. I want to have conversations with inspirational people in our industry that teach me as well. So I have an ulterior motive there. I'm also here to share with you what makes a party, a celebration, unforgettable, beautiful, and enviable. And I'm here to show you that feeling of love in a great party does actually come with good planning. I plan to get real with some of my laughable, outrageous stories and tough to swallow event fails, which I hope will become teachable moments for you. I can't wait to dive into conversations with fellow event business owners as well to reveal their strategies for day-to-day success and coping, which we could all do a little bit more of. Plus, I hope to make you laugh along the way. And listen, this is my first time doing a podcast, so I'm nervous, I'm excited, and the better I get, the more I think I'll be able to make you laugh. If you love love in all forms, if you are ready to see a modern, more inclusive, more sustainable, and redefined event industry, if you want to make weddings work for you, rather than squeeze yourself into a box that doesn't feel quite right, then this podcast, the Love by Lynzie podcast, is for you. Welcome, friends. Thank you for tuning in. Here goes nothing. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Love by Lynzie podcast. If you're walking away empowered and excited to plan, we'd love you to hit subscribe and then share our podcast with your friends. And if you want to keep the conversation going, head over to Instagram and share a comment or let me know what you want me to cover in a future episode at Love by Lynzie or at lovebylynzie.events. Have fun planning and we'll see you next time.